But it's a CV. And it is so important that you get that CV right. You might write it 10, 20 times, but that's what tells everyone about you. Okay, so first thing when you're writing a CV, it may sound straightforward, but it's actually the amount of CVs we get that just look dire and just don't sell the person is unbelievable. So the first thing you need to decide upon is your form, is your content. And it's straightforward, but it needs your name, your contact details, driving license, those sort of particulars. The next bit is a little profile about you and your skill set. So don't make any assumptions that the person reading your CV knows all about you, because they don't, and what you should be able to do, because they don't. So if it's illustration, good hand drawing skills, if it's photography, if it's CAD skills, computer skills, and put down all of the package. Don't just say I'm CAD literate, I'm IT literate, because that could be any packages or no packages. So make sure you put down the packages and all the computer packages you know, any team building things you've been on, any leadership skills you may have picked up. Just list those out, because you want to try and make your CV look different and as much as possible. And it's difficult when you're graduates because you've not had a lot of life experience out there, so you just want to draw upon anything you can to put down there to show what you can do. Then qualifications, and it is important to put down, your degree and your A levels and your GCSEs. You haven't got to put all your grades down unless they're fantastic and they're A's and A stars and you want to shout about them, but make sure you put down the subjects, because they want to know that even if you're going to an art subject, they'd like to know that you're numerate. If you have done maths and English and those sort of boring subjects, it's still very important out there. And then once you've done that, you go on to your work experience. I mean, if you've been lucky to gain a placement or project experience live out there in industry, then just shout about it on your CV, put everything down. If it's dog walking or delivering newspapers or anything like that, put that down as well, because it just shows that you've been enterprising, you've gone out there, you've tried to get some work, you're prepared, because you will have to do some pretty boring jobs to begin with, I'm afraid, in order to work your way up the ladder. So just make sure you put all of that down there, and don't miss anything out. And then at the end, you can put your interests down, but don't put socialising, going to the pub. Just put down things like karate. I mean, for instance, you could be going for an interview and the person you see without you knowing is a black belt. And the fact that your black belt or your red belt or your whatever you are, could be of interest, or paragliding, or I don't know. You just never quite know the person you're seeing, what their interests are. So just make sure you put that down. Okay, so you've got your format. Now, how's it going to look? I mean, you're all in the design and the arts, so I know you're all going to want to make it look different and creative and try and, attract the other person, which is great, because you don't want a boring CV. But please remember that it's got to be, legible. They've got to be able to read it. The font has got to be, readable. If you're looking on a screen, portrait's better than landscape, because then it's, they can read it, they might print it off. So you've got to think of all the practical aspects of a CV, and then a little bit of individuality about it. You might want to put some of your illustrations on it, some thumbnail sketches, a few visuals. I mean, make sure the quality looks good, so when they print it out, it's not all blurry, because that's what they read first, that's you. So it's got to give a really good idea about you, but it's also, got to be readable and legible for them. Okay, so you've got your content and your format. Make sure it's printable. I would not advise a photo. I mean, some recent examples, I had this chap that had a photo of him in an open-top car with sunglasses, posing. Didn't quite give the right impression, particularly actually as he had got experience and he was going for a senior job. Another one, I've had people that have just stuck up their passport photos, and no passport photos look good. So you don't want people to be judgmental straight away. So depending obviously what job you're going for, it's probably not needed. In this country it's not. In other countries you do need to put your photo on, but not in this country. So you've added some images and you're happy with how it looks. one thing, before you start sending the CV out, proofread it. Don't just rely on spell check, because it's not going to pick up certain words, you know, the difference in there, for instance, and curriculum vitae is always misspelt. And for some reason at the moment, people, instead of putting roll, as in R-O-L-E, they're putting bread roll, R-O-L-L. I don't quite know how they think it's spelt that way, but you've just got to make sure. And if someone gets two CVs, you know, at your sort of level, they look similar. If one's grammatically wrong and one's correct, they're going to pick that one, I'm afraid. I know it doesn't seem fair, but they are going to pick that. Okay, so do make sure. And also I had someone that's, one of his points was, you know, attention to detail, and they'd misspelt attention to detail. Make sure you've got your CV looking good, and then you've got a covering letter to go with it. And there's two main sorts of covering letters. There's your specific one to a job. So you've seen a job, you're applying for that job, and on that specific one, make sure that you've, you know, listed actually what job you're going for. And when you write it, it's just brief. Don't go mad on a covering letter. They don't want, you know, chapter and gospel. They don't want to know all about you. They just want to know why you're applying for that job. But if you're applying for, I mean, it's not going to be in your case, but say it's an engineering job, you're not going to say, I'm a highly creative person, because then why would you be applying for that job? You've got to make sure the little information you give, you know, is to do with that job. I mean, I had a very good covering letter recently, and that was someone that had actually picked out 3 parts of that job and had said why they thought they were good for that job. Or if they hadn't actually got the experience, that I may have not have this the exact year's experience, but I can do this and this. So that was quite good. They were very specific to that actual job. If it's a general one, then it's, you know, you're just going to just a little bit of blurb about yourself. But if you are sending out general covering letters and CVs to everybody, try and find out the person's name you're going to send it to, rather than say it to whoever it concerns. And also, if you're going to send out, try and do it in small batches. It's control of who you're sending it out to, because you want to be able to follow up afterwards with a phone call. I mean, you're not going to get to speak to everybody you send your CV out to, I'm afraid, but hopefully you will get to speak to a few. So you want to be able to follow them up. So you want to just send it out in small batches, so you can do that. Okay, so you've got your CV and your covering letter, then portfolio. I don't know, because you're all in sort of different sections of the arts, what you're going to send and what you're not. But if you're sending your CV electronically, then I guess you're going to send a small small little shot, a sample and selection of your work, whether it be, you know, PowerPoint, whether it be a show reel, whether it be a PDF, I don't know how it is, photos, images, drawings, illustrations, just a little bit of a snapshot of what you can do for them to get a bit of a taster. And if you're applying for a specific job, then try and make sure your portfolio is relevant to that. If it's a general one, then you want to show a little bit of everything you do, whether it's hand drawing, whether it's digital, whether it's animation, whatever it is. I can't talk about the music business, I'm afraid. I don't know much about that, but I'm sure you know what you need to be sending along with your CV for that. So you're all ready to go. What do you do now? Who do you send it to? How do you find these people to send it to? Okay, you've got various different ways in order to look for a job. You've got agencies like ourselves, and they are really important and they're really helpful for 2 reasons. A, for finding your job, but also for asking for advice. Make the most of agencies. Find the ones out there that cover your sectors. Send off your CV and a covering letter and a portfolio to them. Follow that up with a phone call. Don't wait for them to come back to you. On the flip side, I know we don't like to be inundated too many times with phone calls, but we are there to help. And find an agency out there that will help you. You know, ask them what you should be doing. Should your CV be changed? Should you change your portfolio? You know, ask them to help you, because they should have a really good grip of what your particular industry needs. Okay, so you find yourself an agency. There's job boards. There's hundreds of job boards on the internet. Don't go to all of them, because they're not all going to be relevant to yourself. So obviously pick those when you go on a job board, you'll see it'll list down the different professions and different industries they work in. But it doesn't list yours. They're unlikely to help. So go to those that actually do list the ones you have. Be wary of those you have to pay, purely that you want to make sure you know what you're getting your money's worth. You don't want to find that you're posting your CV to them, paying them whatever it is a month, and then they send your CV to absolutely everybody, even if it's not relevant to what you do. And you don't want your CV landing 10 times on the same person's desk. It's all about controlling, doing it little bit by little bit, having a plan, keeping a note of who you sent your CV to, who you're dealing with, what job boards, what jobs, etc. Again, a little bit boring, but it's really important. So you've got control on what you're doing and where your CV's going to and what companies they are. So you've got the job boards, and they are a great way of finding, a mass of different jobs out there. And then thirdly is direct marketing. And that's down, again, using the internet or using Yellow Pages even, or trade magazines, finding out the companies, particularly in the areas that you're really interested in. And then again, small batches to send your CV and whatever you're going to send off. If you at all possible, I'd actually call up the company and find out the person's name, rather than just sending it in and hoping it'll land on the right person's desk. It's always a good idea if you can actually find out the right person to send it to, and it's a little bit more specific to that person. So send them off in batches, and you're just going to have to keep on trying. I mean, some you'll get answers, some you won't, some you'll get to speak to. You've got to keep on trying, because you will find the person that really is interested in you eventually, hopefully straight away, but if not, hopefully not too long. So there you've got your agencies, your job boards, direct marketing, people you know, word of mouth, and obviously the university here as well, everyone that can help you here. Just ask everybody you can. You can't do it all on your own. At this stage in your career, you need help. And lastly, it's interviews. Now, you've got yourself an interview, you're all excited, and then you're a bit nervous because it's all very new, and until you go to loads of interviews, even then you're always nervous because you don't know what to expect at the other end. So it's all down to, the first thing is to prepare. So you obviously need to know who you're going to go and see, all about the company, do some research. What's really good idea is look into what the companies do, have a little think about who their competitors might be, look at any newspaper articles about them, find out what they've been doing, what they're achieving, see if you can think of some useful comments that would aid in the interview, and questions as well. Take a piece of paper in. You can have all these questions in mind, and you'll sit there and you'll be talking, and they'll say any questions, and you'll go, and then you won't. You'll go blank. So just take a piece of paper, and I tell you what, they like it because they like to think that you've really thought about the interview, that you've planned, because it shows that you really want the job. So don't worry about taking any materials or newspaper articles or anything in. It's a good idea to do that. So the more prepared you are, the more relaxed you're going to be about the interview, because you know what to expect. So find out about the company, ask the agency, if it's through an agency, what the interviewer is going to be looking out for, what they do and don't like, and get yourself all prepared for that. Do a dummy run before you go to the interview if possible. Work out how long it's going to take. Go on Google Maps to see what the front door looks like, so you know what to expect when you get there. Because some studios are tucked away in unusual places, and there's not very obvious nice big shop front for you to go into. So make sure you know where you're going, and you've got all your relevant information. If it takes half an hour, go an hour before. If it takes an hour and a half, go 2 hours. Just take extra, because you can't rely on public transport, I'm afraid. It's always going to go wrong on the one day that you don't want it to. So give yourself extra time. You don't want to be flustered. So you can walk around the block, have a cup of coffee, get yourself all ready before you go in. And the next thing is what you're going to wear. Now, that's a bit of a tricky one, because, if you're going for a corporate interview, an IT interview, all those, it's obvious. You're suited and booted, and there you go. So what do you guys wear? Well, I would still, I'm afraid, err on the side of conservatism, because you don't know what they're going to be like. Unless you know what the dress code is, you want to show that you want the job, And the best way of showing you want the job is by being suited and booted or similar to that. You want to look smart. If you look smart, then you feel smart and you feel the business. And then you're more likely to do a better interview. I mean, you can add your own quirkiness to it, but you want to, you want to look smart. I mean, I've got a couple of examples. I had one chap that took his motorbike to the interview and turned up in his biking gear, in his leathers, and didn't have a change of clothes. And he had to sit the whole time through, in all of his leathers. And that didn't look very good in the interview, and he wasn't very comfortable. Funnily enough, he didn't get the job. And I've had another girl wearing leather trousers and very high heels that she couldn't walk in. That wasn't too good either. I've had dirty fingernails. I've had unkempt hair. This may sound not important to the job you're going for, but it's getting the right impression at the other end, okay? And one other example, I had a girl that turned up with her dog. She couldn't find anyone to look after it, so she thought she'd bring it along to the interview. The problem there, apart from having a dog, what you do with it, is the receptionist had to look after it. And then sometimes what companies will do is after you've left the interview, they'll ask around and say, did you see that person? What did you think of them? Were they polite? Were they smiling? Were they nice? And this receptionist said, I had to look after this dog that barked the whole time. And the person didn't get the interview. So when you turn up, just remember that everybody in the building could be the person that's deciding your fate. So just remember that and be polite to everybody and don't bring a dog along. Okay, so you've got yourself there, you haven't brought your dog, you're not wearing leather trousers or looking too way out. And then the best thing now you can do is just try and enjoy and just try and relax, smile, shake hands, have that piece of paper and ask those questions. When it comes down to questions, try not to ask, how much do I get for this job and what are the holidays? Not the best questions to ask straight away, that's for later on. It should be slightly more intelligent and creative questions if at all possible, okay? And then otherwise it's just, answer them, be honest, don't make up things because you'll get found out. If you can say you can do X, Y and Z and then you get the job and you can't, you'll be found out and it doesn't look good. You just got to be honest, smile, show your work, you've got your portfolio there, or whatever you're taking along, your designs or whatever they're going to listen to or look at. Make sure you're happy with what you're taking, that it looks perfect, that it's neat, it's not dog-eared or torn or bits falling out. When I first started out, I've been doing recruitment for about 25 years now. And I used to work right at the start in a big agency in the centre of London. And that's when designers and art students had to bring these massive, great big portfolios with great big boards with all their project work on. And they just kept falling out and tearing and breaking and bits missing. And you're lucky now, you can bring it in lots of different formats. And there's no excuse for it not looking the business when you bring it along, because how you show your work is how to them you're going to show their work to their clients. So it's a test right at the start, really, of how you're going to be in front of their clients down the line when you're given a chance to do that. So anyway, you've had your interview, you've done as well as you can do, you smiled, you've shown you're friendly, you've shown you're not a prima donna and you're happy to do whatever menial job, whether you are or not, but you're showing willing that you're going to work your way up. And then all you can do is thank them, make sure you do thank them. And if at all possible, get their business card, because that business card, as many business cards as you can collect, is so important, because that's part of your networking. You can send them an email afterwards to thank them for the interview, telling them things you may have forgotten about in the interview. But that little piece of card, that's really important for you, for your networking and for getting your job. And then you just got to hope that you've got it. And if you haven't, there'll be another one, and there'll be another one. Keep on trying, and that job will be out there for you. But just ask everyone help. And good luck.